This video it was a little darker than I intended. When I sought out to see what QAnon was about, I did not realize I was going to cover some of these darker topics. So just a trigger warning. If you are familiar with QAnon, or I guess if you're not familiar with QAnon, it does go over some heavier topics that involve people of all ages, including children. So proceed at your own risk. I hope you're ready to learn, ready to relax. Goodbye and hello. Hello, 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 hello. You ask and you shall receive. So, we're back to talk about conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories. I don't know why that word fucked me up for a little bit. Conspiracy theory. And today, to be exact, we're talking about QAnon. Because I honestly don't know much about it. I was listening to the Daily. No, it was Ezra Klein, whom I don't usually listen to. I was really interested in the topic today. Anyway, they mentioned QAnon and gave like some information about it, and I was like, okay, interesting. I didn't know it was all this. And then one of you commented asking for more of these videos, so the stars aligned. So another conspiracy. Maybe I'm a conspirator. Let's find out. Okay, so I'm reading from Britannica. Is it Britannica? QAnon, a conspiracy theory originating in forum posts on the website 4chan in October 2017. Conspiracy adherents believe that the U.S. President Donald Trump, was waging a secret war against a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic pedophiles within Hollywood, the Democratic Party, and the so-called deep state within the United States. With the aid of social media platforms, the theory expanded in content and geographic reach in subsequent years and resulted in legal protests as well as several violent criminal incidents. What's a cabal? Cabal, a private organization or party engaged in secret intrigues. Also, the intrigues themselves. Okay, so you can call people inside of a cabal. A cabal. Is it pronounced cabal? I mean, it's from the UK. It's gotta be. Okay, well, let's find out. The origins of QAnon. QAnon was the offspring of a conspiracy theory known as Pizzagate. In 2016, the website WikiLeaks released a trove of emails that Russian hackers had stolen from the account of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chair for her 2016 presidential election. On the website 4chan, a forum characterized by trollish behavior, extreme content, and lax moderation, anonymous users posited that the use of the term cheese pizza in Podesta's email was code for child P-word. P-word being like explicit videos. And that this is dark. And that a Washington D.C. pizzeria named Comet Ping Pong, from which Podesta had ordered, was engaged in the. I don't know if I like this. This is a little dark. Do I owe it to the people as a journalist to report? Or do I abandon ship? Okay, let's see. Maybe this is as worth it as it gets. Okay. Cheese pizza was code for child videos, and that a Washington D.C. pizzeria named Comet Ping Pong, from which Podesta had ordered, was engaged in the sexual exploitation of children. Ultimately, Pizzagate conspiracy theorists invoked the existence of an elite cabal of satanic cannibals operating a Whoa, whoa. A child blank trafficking ring out of the basement of Comet Ping Pong. The restaurant does not, in fact, have a basement. Edgar Welch, a Pizzagate conspiracy theory believer, decided to self-investigate the matter. So on December 4th, 2016, he drove from North Carolina to Washington, D.C., armed with an AR-15, a shotgun, and a revolver. He entered Comet Ping Pong and fired several rounds in an effort to uncover the pizzeria's non-existent basement. But he surrendered to police after determining that the intel on Pizzagate wasn't 100%. Why wouldn't you check that out before you went in guns ablaze? Well, I know why I'm doing this. In 2017, Welch was sentenced to 4 years in prison on federal weapons charge. Let me read this again. He entered the ping pong and fired several rounds. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and they said, girl, you can come back. Now, you know I hate prison. But also, sometimes it applies. And this is a case where 4 years, I feel like, unless it was like 4 years of like psychiatric help, that's crazy. Now that's the real conspiracy. Bitch, let's look into that. On October 28th, 2017, an unidentified individual or group of individuals known as Q posted an entry on 4chan asserting that the arrest of Hillary Clinton was already in motion. A statement that was obviously false. And again, this is, using hindsight, I'm sure, but obviously, in a later post, Q claimed to be a government official with ties to the Trump administration and top secret Q clearance. Q asserted that Trump would initiate the storm, an attack on deep state officials responsible for the cannibalistic, satanic pedophile cabal invoked by Pizzagate. The resultant conspiracy theory became eponymously known as QAnon. Q drops. Cryptic 4chan posts consisting of alleged intelligence from the highest levels of power fed the conspiracy, while bakers, a collection of YouTube content creators, and 4chan and Reddit users wove Q's latest breadcrumbs into the overarching narrative. In early 2018, Q drops migrated from 4chan to 8chan, period, bitch. A similar message board that was owned by Jim Watkins, an American expatriate who was living in the Philippines. Is it expatriate? An expat, bitch. Watkins and his son Ron would play a significant role in the propagation and possibly creation. Of the Q mythos. Later in 2018, Reddit banned its most active QAnon subforums, thank God, for inciting violence, a clear breach of the site's terms of service. It would not be the last site to attempt to limit potentially harmful QAnon activity. Girl, just wait till 2020. If they only knew. The spread of QAnon and its political influence. I guess I was actually 2021. The spread of QAnon and its political influence. Over time, bakers and other QAnon-associated personalities expanded the conspiracy theory in response to world events and Trump's actions, while Trump-aligned politicians and even Trump himself sometimes echoed QAnon beliefs online at rallies or at official appearances. For example, QAnon theorists addressed QAnon theorists. For example, QAnon theorists address the coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 pandemic by suggesting that drinking industrial bleach marketed as miracle mineral solution could cure COVID-19, the potentially deadly disease caused by the virus. Wait, they were serious when they talked about drinking bleach. Oh my God, because I forgot. He's like, you can't rule that. Okay, press conference in April 2020, Trump posited similar claims when he proposed that disinfecting agents like bleach could be administered by injection inside or almost a cleaning to combat the virus. Again, girlies. And then you reelected him. That is crazy to me. Trump also used Twitter to boost QAnon's reach. He retweeted scores of posts from QAnon believers and other conspiracy theorists. At least some of these posts came from accounts which were later determined to have been run by Russian intelligence agents. Girl, during wildfire season on the west coast of the United States in the fall of 2020, Q reposted false claims made by a former U.S. Senate candidate from Oregon that 6 members of Antifa had been arrested for starting wildfires. In this way, QAnon and the broader Trump movement created a mutually reinforced shared reality. As QAnon spread from 4chan, 8chan, and closed Reddit forums to mainstream social media sites, belief in the conspiracy spread rapidly across the United States and abroad. From October 2017 to June 2020, the Institute for Strategic Dialogue identified over 69 million tweets, 487,000 Facebook posts, and 281,000 Instagram posts mentioning QAnon-related phrases or hashtags. The conspiracy theory's 4chan origins remained apparent, however, in its heavy reliance on memes and jokes, trolling, and other elements of internet culture. Elon, they're talking about you, girl. Looming especially large in the QAnon belief system were phrases and concepts appropriated from a pair of films from the late 1990s. QAnon believers claimed to have been red-pilled, a description of the process of enlightenment in the Matrix, and urged others to follow the White Rabbit, a line from the Matrix that was itself a reference to Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, the theatrical trailer for White Squall, 1996. An obscure Ridley Scott disaster film warned off the calm before the storm and provided QAnon with perhaps its most recognizable slogan, "Where we go one, we go all." This phrase was often abbreviated as WWG1WGA. Why didn't they just use O? On YouTube, the comment section for the video The Matrix and White Squall were often filled with discussions of QAnon. In the 2020 elections, dozens of Republican congressional candidates voiced their support for QAnon. 2, Marjorie Dumbass Taylor Greene of Georgia and Lauren Boebert of Colorado, who I've never heard of, were elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Both were among the most vocal supporters of Trump's big lie concerning the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential contest. By that time, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube had begun to quash QAnon content, an effort that only intensified after the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters. Girl, where were you on Jan 6? On J6, as they call it. Sauvignon Blanc. Numerous. Okay, this is criminal activity and influence abroad. Numerous QAnon believers committed crimes based on the conspiracy theory. In June 2018, Matthew Wright staged a nearly hour-long standoff with law enforcement on a bridge near the Hoover Dam, armed with a pair of assault rifles, 2 handguns, and 900 rounds of ammunition. Wright blocked traffic with his armored vehicle and stated that he was on a mission for QAnon. He demanded access to an official report on the Federal Bureau of Investigation agents who had investigated Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server for official communications. Sidebar: what did QAnon say about war plans in the group chat? What did they say about Signal? I gotta look into that. I just want to see if the messaging is consistent. There had been a Q drop referencing just a report 2 days earlier. Wright attempted to flee, but he was ultimately apprehended by Arizona police. That's crazy. In 2021, he was sentenced to almost 8 years in prison. In March 2019, Anthony Comello shot and K-worded at a Gambino crime family boss Francesco Galli, reportedly because Camilla believed that he was Trump's personal vigilante and that Galli was a member of the deep state. Girl, this is darker than I am comfortable with. Like, don't put me in it. I'm just reading from the website. This is public information. I don't have no beef. Actually, bitch, stand up. Well, in May 2019, an FBI intelligence bulletin identified followers of fringe political conspiracy theories, such as QAnon, as potential domestic terrorism threats. Okay, now we're talking. This assessment would be proved correct during the deadly events of January 6, 2021. First of all, is the Britannicas have in the UK? Because if so, that's embarrassing. I mean, that's what it was, though, literally, girl. Among the hundreds of pro-Trump rioters who were arrested after battling police and storming the Capitol building were members of neo-fascist white nationalist organizations such as the Proud Boys and more than 60 self-identified QAnon adherents. Perhaps the most recognizable rioter was Jacob Chansley, the so-called QAnon shaman, who was photographed on the floor of the U.S. Senate bare-chested and sporting a spear and a horned helmet. I hate to even give attention to this. Chansley was found guilty of unlawfully obstructing an official proceeding, the certification of the results of the 2020 presidential election, and sentenced to 41 months in prison. In March 2023, Chansley received early release to a halfway house for good behavior. When Trump returned to the White House on January 20th, 2025, one of his first acts was to issue a sweeping pardon for all individuals convicted of offenses related to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. Does everybody understand how crazy that was? Or is? Like, these people, like, they stormed the government's Capitol. People were in there afraid for their lives. People literally died. And he pardoned them. It's literally saying thank you. Thank you for the chaos and disaster you caused. That is so scary. That's scary and crazy. It's crazy. QAnon also gained believers around the world between between November 2019 and June 2020. After the United States, most QAnon-related posts came from the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. In August 2020, street protests involving up to 500 participants occurred in 10 cities across the United Kingdom. How embarrassing. The group Freedom for the Children, UK, organized a protest in response to concerns about the global pedophile cabal. Fear and anxiety over the coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 pandemic fueled the spread of QAnon to more than 70 countries, with especially large groups of believers in Germany and Brazil. Who was Q? The final Q drop appeared on December 8, 2020, a month after Trump's election loss, with a link to a video that implied that Trump would soon be sworn in for a second term as president. Like the overwhelming majority of Q's predictions, it did not come to pass, but this, along with the silence from the movement's ostensible leader, did little to check the spread and transformation of the baseless conspiracy theory. In the year that followed, scores of QAnon adherents converged on Dallas, Texas, to await the appearance of John F. Kennedy Jr. at the location where his father had been assassinated. Wait, excuse me? In the year they died. Okay. It was believed that the younger Kennedy, who died in 1999, would reappear, and join Trump as his vice president. This is just one way in which the conspiracy evolved and remained relevant to its believers in the absence of Q. The apparent end of Q drops did nothing to address the lingering question at the center of the conspiracy theory, the identity of Q. Some QAnon adherents proposed that Q was Trump himself, while others suggested that Trump advisor Steve Bannon, the former Trump national security advisor, Michael Flynn, or Republican political operative Roger Stone. Two teams of forensic linguists used machine learning to analyze thousands of Q drops, and they determined that QAnon was most likely the work of South African software engineer. I'm not going to say this person's name because I don't want to be in the lawsuit. And 8chan, 8kun administrator, another name that I'm not saying. Neither had any kind of special access to intelligence or classified information, but both were extremely well versed in the language and culture of conspiracy-themed message boards. Somebody's last name, a 4chan moderator and one of the first public post proponents of QAnon, was identified as the author of the earliest Q drops. These messages echoed many of the themes of Pizzagate, but they eschewed the specificity of that conspiracy in favor of vague proclamations, often followed by questions that encourage readers to engage with and build upon the narrative. Last name was among those who enlisted the initial bakers to spread QAnon beyond the confines of 4chan. That's crazy, girl. Not like this. This is a cult. In early 2018, there appeared to be a struggle for control of the Q account, after which point Q drops migrated to 8chan, and last name likely became the sole voice of Q, although both F and W publicly denied knowing the identity of Q. W appeared to admit to having authored some of the Q drops during an interview for the HBO documentary Q Into the Storm 2021. W took back this admission almost immediately, but he subsequently turned his deep association with QAnon into a political career. In October 2021, W announced his candidacy for a U.S. congressional seat in Arizona. Oh, girl, not Arizona. Wait, is that the whole thing? So, girl, that's them. Very unhinged behavior. Let's see what the Anti-Defamation League says about them. Okay. Oops. I'm just going to read the key points. QAnon key points. QAnon is a decentralized far-right political movement rooted in a baseless conspiracy theory that the world is controlled by the deep state, a cabal of Satan-worshipping P-words, and that former President Donald Trump, former and now current, is the only person who can defeat it. The calls come from inside the house. QAnon emerged on 4chan in 2017 when an anonymous poster known as Q, believed by QAnon followers to be a team of U.S. government and military insiders, began posting cryptic messages online about Trump's alleged efforts to take down the deep state online. QAnon followers believe that the deep state will be brought to justice during a violent day of reckoning known as the Storm. I'm so scared, actually. When the deep state and its collaborators will be arrested and sent to Guantanamo Bay to face military tribunals and execution for their various crimes. The crazy part is, like, this sounds like ridiculous and far-fetched. And it is. But like the fact that they are sending immigrants to El Salvador for people to face military tribunals for doing nothing. So that's interesting. Since the 2020 presidential election, QAnon has continued to migrate into the mainstream, becoming a powerful force within U.S. politics. Across the United States, QAnon adherents, animated by false claims that the 2020 election was rigged or stolen, both in quotes, are running for political office, signing up to become poll workers, filing frivolous election-related lawsuits, and harassing election officials. Wow. I didn't know that. While not all QAnon adherents are extremists, QAnon-linked beliefs have inspired violent acts and have eroded trust in democratic institutions and the electoral process. Oh yeah, that's their goal, girl. Many QAnon influencers also spout anti-Semitic beliefs and core tenets of Pizzagate and Save the Children, both of which are QAnon adjacent beliefs, play into anti-Semitic conspiracy theories like blood libel. Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. Oh, bitch, they have some tea in here. I'm not gonna read this whole thing. I do want to read what followers believe. QAnon consists of a number of deeply convoluted conspiracy theories and elevates theories ranging from satanic blood rituals to the faked death of John F. Kennedy Jr., all tenuously centered around the belief that the world is controlled by a global cabal of Satan-worshipping P-words. This kitchen sink approach is a major reason why QAnon has gained such a substantial following in its relatively short life. Since its 2017 inception, the movement has become a big tent conspiracy capable of accommodating and encompassing all sorts of theories and global events. But if you like believing QAnon, do you have to believe everything they tell you? Like, are there some where you're like, okay, yeah, girl, I believe in Pizzagate, but not JFK? That's crazy. Like, are you still allowed to be a QAnoner? It's not all doom and gloom. QAnon followers also believe there are good forces at play, men and women working within the government to thwart the deep state. QAnon followers refer to these people as white hats. Interesting. According to Q, the mysterious insider who was leaking information to their followers about the plan to take down the deep state, the white hats stopped Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton from stealing the 2016 election. As the theory goes, the Democratic elites needed to win the presidency in order to pay back funds that the Clinton Foundation stole from other nations under the guise of 2010 emergency earthquake aid to Haiti. These are not the same people who support Trump. There's no way. Rather than help Haitians in dire straits, Q claimed that the Clintons supposedly used the money to fund a massive child blanking operation from the disaster-stricken nation. The White Hats identified the only person they considered honest and moral enough to resist the evils of the deep state, Donald Trump, who they recruited to run for president in 2016. Ever since Trump's election, Trump and the White Hats have been embroiled in what QAnon adherents view as an epic battle with the deep state. QAnon followers believed a team of military and government insiders posting under the Q identity is leaking information to the public in order to enlighten them to the plan and quell any civil unrest that may occur when the storm begins. QAnon adherents call this process the Great Awakening. The storm. The successful completion of the plan hinges on hundreds of thousands of alleged sealed indictments, supposedly being compiled by the Justice Department against the prominent Democrats, Hollywood celebrities, business leaders, and other elites who make up the cabal. These indictments are said to be unsealed during the violent day of reckoning known as the Storm, when the cabal and its collaborators will promptly be arrested and sent to Guantanamo Bay, where they will face military tribunals and possible execution for their crimes. The Storm takes its name from a comment then President Trump made during a photo op held before a White House military dinner on October 5th, 2017, in which he remarked that the dinner was maybe the calm before the storm. When a reporter asked, "What storm, Mr. President?" Trump responded, "You'll find out." Q has reportedly suggested that the storm was imminent, even going so far as to claim that certain members of the cabal, such as Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, would be arrested on certain dates. I know Hillary Clinton's like, now why am I in it? While those dates have all come and gone with no arrest, QAnon adherents have remained steadfast in their support for Q, who has explained away these false predictions by claiming that the arrests had been delayed for various reasons and that disinformation is necessary to throw the deep state off the White Hats plan. Now that is iconic, bitch. You say, actually, bitch, I lied on purpose, okay? It's called strategy. Chestnut checkers, bitch. As the QAnon movement grew and migrated to more mainstream social media platforms, it developed numerous subplots, such as the far-fetched conspiracy theory that JFK Kennedy, that John F. Kennedy Jr. is still alive and will become Trump's new vice president, that various politicians, celebrities such as Michelle Obama are trans, that you can order trafficked children online from Wayfair. I remember that one. They almost caught me with that one, bitch. No, I'm just playing. And that tweets from various celebrities and politicians about the deaths of their dogs are secret messages about members of the deep state being arrested or executed, i.e. dog code. Amidst the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the QAnon and anti-vaccine communities have become increasingly intertwined. In the early days of the pandemic, QAnon adherents latched onto theories that the COVID-19 virus was a bioweapon created by the deep state to help sway the results of the 2020 election and usher in a great reset. QAnon followers have also promoted numerous false claims and disinformation about COVID-19 vaccines, claiming that the vaccines are being used to implant microchips to track people. I thought that was a joke. And that vaccines can alter people's DNA, and that the vaccines are being used to sterilize and kill off parts of the population. Which one is it? So they made a bioweapon and then said, girl, here's a vaccine that's not going to work against the bioweapon that we made. Which one is it? That isn't okay. Sorry. Russia's invasion of Ukraine Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 has ushered in additional theories about the COVID-19 virus's origin, with some QAnon adherents claiming that the virus is a bioweapon created in U.S.-funded bioweapons labs in Ukraine. Oh my God, there's so many. Okay, no, this is the last one. Okay. Election conspiracies. The QAnon movement has continued to evolve following Trump's defeat in 2020. In the 2020 presidential election, incorporating new conspiracy theories and other forms of extremism. QAnon adherents have... it's so loud. QAnon adherents have repeatedly promoted false claims that the 2020 election was rigged to rationalize their belief that President Joe Biden is a fake president and will soon be removed from office, with some even going so far as to claim that former President Trump is still in control. Devolution, an outlandish conspiracy theory created by QAnon influencer, name redacted by me, posits that Trump, aware of the deep state, was planning to steal the 2020 election, devolved the U.S. government via an executive order right before he left office, and still secretly... Oh, bitch. Okay, this is iconic. Hold on. The theory is, it's called devolution. All right. Trump, aware that the deep state was planning to steal the 2020 election, devolved the U.S. government via an executive order right before he left office, and is still secretly president, working with the military behind the scenes to expose China and the deep state for teaming up to steal the election. QAnon supporters have also repeatedly claimed that Trump will eventually be reinstated as president. Well, one of the earliest forms of this reinstatement theory settled on the date of March 4, 2021, prompting a sovereign citizen-linked theory that former President Trump will return to power on that day, succeeding former President Ulysses S. Grant as the 19th president. Wait, what? Okay, let me read that again. March 4th, 2021, promoting a sovereign citizen-linked theory that former President Trump would return to power on that date, succeeding former President Ulysses S. Grant as the 19th president. Although nothing happened on March 4th, some QAnon adherents have continued to promote the belief that Trump will soon be reinstated as president. I mean, he has been reinstated as president. Well, not reinstated, but he won another election. It is important to note that the several aspects of QAnon lore mirror long-standing anti-Semitic tropes and multiple QAnon influencers such as Ghost Ezra, I don't want to say these names, blank, and blank, have been known to peddle anti-Semitic beliefs. The belief that a global Kabbalah is involved in the rituals of self-sacrifice, the roots in the anti-Semitic trope of blood libel, the false theory that Jews murder Christian children for ritualistic purposes. Oh my God, that's terrible. I've never even heard of that. That is crazy. So this is just a group of Nazis, but they call themselves QAnon. The false, okay. And In addition, QAnon has a deep-seated hatred for financier and philanthropist George Soros, a name that has become synonymous with perceived Jewish meddling in global affairs. And QAnon's ongoing obsession with the global elite of bankers also has deeply anti-Semitic undertones. Okay. They are trash all the way down. Okay, this thing goes on about a bunch of, it goes on long. But that was basically, that section was just a section on, what was it called? Conspiracies or something. What the followers believe. I learned a lot, and I'm more confused than I was when I started this video, which is always a good sign. I like to leave something with, not always, but if you leave with more questions, it's like, okay, girl, you really learned some stuff, and you want to know more, because I have so many questions. I'm all, when things like this are happening, I'm always wondering, are there people who are, because let's say this with all sensitivity, but clearly mental illnesses at play here. If you believe John F. Kennedy Jr. is going to come back and be Trump's vice president, things are happening and they're not being treated properly. But then I'm like, are there people who are girl, I know there are people who are, so Trump, for example, people are I'm sure was girl, that's crazy as hell, but I'm gonna ride with y'all because Trump too, I'm sure. One, to vote. To vote. Two, if he sees hatred, he's happy. He's like, okay, anti-Semitism. He said, sign him up. So it's crazy because there's people who truly believe it, and in my humble opinion, truly need help. And then there are those who are taking advantage because it serves their overall, I guess that's how anything runs, but it serves their overall goal. Yeah, girl, they're saying some crazy stuff, they're making this up, but I too hate this group of people, so I'm going to join in. Which really, what they need to be doing is calling law enforcement, not law enforcement, okay? Maybe, let's say, giving the people access to mental health resources, and maybe a 5150. Is that what they're called? Okay, so we learned some things. That was dark, so I'm gonna put a trigger warning at the beginning of the video, which you already know that, so I don't have to say that. But anyway, okay. Thank you for joining. If you want to know more, let me know. There was a lot of I could have went deep into the rabbit hole. Both articles that I was reading, they had links that linked to different things, and those links had links. It was a lot. But I like more believable conspiracy theories, something that I'm no, but I could see that, this was scary. I was uncomfortable almost that entire time, and I'm still uncomfortable. So I think I'm gonna find some more lighthearted conspiracies. Not even more lighthearted, just maybe no trafficking, something victimless or relatively victimless. Anyway, now I'm rambling, so I'm gonna let you go.